Hey guys, welcome to the Vendors B2B Summit. Today we have a very special guest, Jacco vanderKooij. I'm a huge fan of Jacco. For those who don't know him, he's the founder of Winning by Design, a company that designs, builds and scales modern sales organizations. His business has helped over 100 organizations adopt a customer-centric sales approach. He regularly organizes sales workshops, hosts inspiring talks, and frequently blogs to provide insights into a modern sales approach and how every company can become more customer-centric. He's also author of the book Blueprints for SaaS Sales Organizations. Amazing book. I totally recommend for everybody. I'm going to link it right down here below. Jacco, thank you very much and welcome to the summit.
Todo bem, how are you?
I'm fine, Jacco. Thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure to talk to you and learn from you.
Well, thank you for having me. It is truly a pleasure and a treat. And as I said earlier to you, I think I like doing these things a little bit too much.
So before we start, just could you tell us a little bit about your professional background? What you have you done until you get into Winning by Design?
Sure. Actually, I would love to talk to you a little bit more about my personal background. I think it's always nicer when people get to know you. So I'm the youngest of a family of 8.
Okay.
And, 3 brothers, 4 sisters. Grew up in a little farmer's town in the south of the Netherlands. And
what is it called?
It was called Tiel, Tiel.
Okay.
And it's really where like fruit trees, are the main thing, and strawberry farms and so on. So, from kids onward, I've always been very much involved in the fruit plucking and strawberry picking. So yes.
I've been twice to the Netherlands, to Eindhoven.
Yeah.
And to Amsterdam.
To Amsterdam. Well, we live right in the middle.
And I used to live in Brussels. I lived in Brussels for a little while.
There you go. And so that we live right in the middle somewhere. So that is where I'm from.
Great. And what have you done in this past years professionally?
Yeah. So, I went to, I came from the school of Philips Electronics. And then after a few years, Philips gave me the opportunity to move on an expat assignment to the US. A few years later, I was working for a startup. And since 1999, I've been working predominantly for startups, helping them set up new businesses. And so since 2012, and up to 2012, I was the head of sales for many of these companies. But since 2012, I've been doing that under Winning by Design. And today, we have offices in Sao Paulo, Sydney, Shanghai, Amsterdam, Antwerp, London, and we help between 20 to 30 SaaS startups every given month.
Great. So let's talk about customer-centric selling. Something else. It's one of the talks that I love, and I know you also talked a lot about it. Jacco, I advise a lot of Indeed sales to a lot of Brazilian companies, and 99% of them, they have a company-centric sales process. Well, their sales process and their CRM stages represents what the salespeople are doing. As I said in your intro, you are one of the main evangelists of customer-centric selling. So I'd like to know from you, what is, in your opinion, customer-centric selling, and what are the problems with a company-centric sales approach?
Yes. So I give you an idea. For those of you who are listening or watching this right now, I ask of you, how many of you like to be sold? How many want to be actually sold by something, right? And a lot of people say, I don't want to be sold. Mm-hmm. And then I ask of you, how many of you like to buy something?
Everybody.
Everybody, right? And so how can it be that we all love to buy, but that we hate being sold? And so from that point of view, it comes very quickly, you can conclude, maybe we should stop selling and maybe we should start helping customers to buy. And so what is customer-centric selling? It is helping your customer buy. And it's not with the approach of I have to sell you something.
Great. And what are the problems because it's the most common, I think in Brazil, but probably all over the world, companies usually have their process around what they do. And what are the main problems with this approach, in your opinion?
Yeah. The main problem with this approach is that they are based on the concept that I'm going to prescribe to you no matter what. And prescribe is a solution to you, right? And in most other trades that we see in the world, that is illegal. If I give you legal advice without knowing your situation, I will be disbarred. If I will be, a doctor and I'm prescribing some medicine to you without listening to you, I would be sued. Bad things happen when you start to prescribe a customer solution before you actually have listened to them and diagnosed the situation. That is what we got to stop doing. I don't mind as much in the sales stages, having a sales stage approach. I think that, these things need to transition, over time. What I do mind is that we mix two of them up. You cannot sell before you have learned from your customer what their problem is. And so if you flip those two, and then if I need to know your problem, how am I going to find out what your problem is? What do I have to do? If I want to know your problem, what do I have to do?
Ask me questions.
Ask you questions, right? And so, and that is one of the basic skill set. Learn how to ask questions of people, listen to their answer, have a conversation more so than start pitching and so on.
Great. I recently watched a talk of yours called The Art of Make Love, where you describe what are the steps to create a great experience consistently while making each experience unique. Could you explain this concept of the art of making love and share with us those steps to creating this process?
Hold on. When people listen to this and they hear that I'm talking about the art of making love, maybe actually in Brazil, everybody gonna get really excited really quickly, right? Because that's the stuff.
We're recording this right in the middle of Carnival, so it's something that everybody's passionate about right now.
Okay, well, so let's figure this out. And so part of me, what the problem is that when we do things to customers, I feel like we're making them do things. And so I feel like it's like the moment in time that we're making a customer buy from us, or we even fake it, how we're trying to solve their problem, and we make them do it, it feels fake.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that, if I look at my kids love me, not because I make them love me, but because of the activities I take every day with little things. I prove to them that I love them. My wife and my family loves me, not because I made them love me. And so what I want to talk about, and what I described in the art of making love, is not how you make a customer love you, so to speak, of all the forceful, but which small actions can you take every day that they come to love you and that they appreciate what you're doing. And one of those things is, asking questions, actually listening. I don't say listen for a break so you can start pitching again. I'm not saying listening so you know what to sell to them. No, I say listening with a true empathy to try to understand their problem. That is the art of making love. And it has its it has its roots in all the little things you do every day, the posts you place on social media, the way how you write your emails.
How to make this mindset change, Jacco? Because it's easy to say, it's harder to do, because we are telling many of the people who are watching us for years and years without this mindset. How to make this flip? How you do with your clients?
Well, I have good news and bad news for your listeners. Okay, and it's the same news. You don't have to, because your customers are going to make you do this. It is just, there's no choice. If customers have 2 or 3 options, and today I think with many of the SaaS services, we're talking about 5 to 25 different solutions. They're no longer just buying the best solution. They're buying the solution from the company they actually like working with. And so, and then your salespeople can really be a differentiator in this in today. And so that's the answer. They're going to make you. Now, the fast movers are already gonna get ahead of this wave and surf it, rather than being pulled and dragged by the customers later on, because you do not want to be there when your revenue goes down because you don't know what's going on.
Great. So let's try to do this shift fast for those who haven't. And you described a five-step process to create this great experiences. And the first one is create stages that reflects a customer experience. How do we do that?
Well, one of the problems that I commonly find is that when people start describing a process, it's always from their point of view. And so the first thing that we got to do is we got to describe it from a customer's point of view. And so I don't think customers think in stages. They don't wake up in the morning and call up a company and say, hey, can you upgrade me from a qualified lead to an opportunity because I'm ready to, right? They don't talk that lingo. They don't think like that. And that causes a mismatch. And so what I'm a strong believer of is let's start first by thinking in their shoes. And so along that journey, I've created like 6 stages, 6 experiences that they go through. And so the first experience is, oh shoot, I have a problem, right? This is where they realize they have a problem. Now, they can be forced to realize that by a customer who like a salesperson who says like, hey, you have a problem, or they come to that conclusion themselves. Mm-hmm. The second part is, aha, there's a solution. And that is a very enlightening moment. And then the third one is wow, they are the right solution. You folks are the right solution. Then the fourth stage, after the customer commits, important, not closing, after the customer commits, the fourth stage is the onboarding stage where the customer goes like, yeehaw, works as promised. The fifth one is awesome. I get the usage and the impact out of it. And the last one is, oh my gosh, why didn't I not know about this before? These are experiences that they do. And once we know what experience that they're going through, we can now match with our activities to those experiences. Now, I know this sounds a little bit frou-frou, a little fluffy, but this essentially is nothing more than awareness, education, selection, onboarding, use, and upsell, cross-sell mapped to these stages, right? But if at least we make at the beginning an effort to think about how they think, all the rest will start to fall in place.
And how we call these stages matter, right? Because it impacts how we think and how we deal with that every step of that journey.
That's exactly right. So when the customer makes a selection, which we call the wow stage, wow, they want to have a great experience, then what we say is like, why do we call it negotiating? There is, like negotiating may be a correct description of the activity, but most people do not look forward to the whole negotiation process. It is a tedious process where often people sit on opposite sides of the table. And so we believe that like 99% of all the salespeople in the world are not fit to do negotiation. They simply are not, they didn't have enough or the right kind of training. And so why are we calling it something that they don't know really anything about, which on average leads to a 20% discount, right? And so we say, do not think of it as negotiation. Let's not name it negotiation. Let's call it trading. We trade items of equal or similar value with each other. If we need to adjust our price to your budget, then of course we do. We can take something off. Maybe you can give something else. Maybe you can refer us to another customer and so on. We call it trading. And that is something that we can teach people really well. If you give your customer something, you have to ask for something in return.
Wow, that's great. Moving on, the second step of this little framework is create actions in each of this experience. How do you guys do that?
Well, actions are really like they need to bolster what you're doing, right? And as I described, like the action of trading fits well within the wow stage. But to give you another idea of an action that fits the aha stage. The aha stage, which is also known as the education, where you're educating the customer. There is no reason to start qualifying a customer in that stage. Traditionally, we call the action in the stage, in the first stage of sales, we call qualify. Mm-hmm. And then we often use the 4-letter acronym BAND for it. And if I would qualify you, say, hey, do you have budget? Are you the decision maker? Do you have a need? And so on. You as a customer gets nothing out of that from me. You get nothing, right? You're just answering my question, but you get nothing. Now, that's not very customer-centric. And so we have to learn not how to qualify, but how to diagnose. And qualifying and diagnosing is a very different thing. Qualifying is me thinking about, hey, are you a fit for the service I'm selling? Diagnosing is me trying to figure out if you truly have a problem. This process of diagnosing is very friendly towards a customer. It's me helping them, trying to think through the challenges that they're having. And that is an indication of an activity that fits in the experience that we spoke about.
Oh, great. And the step 3 is becoming an expert in interaction. What do you mean by that?
Well, this one is close to my heart, so much so that those of you who see me in talk about this, it often, it often grabs me, and I have to fight my tears back to describe this. What I feel very sorry for the current generation, I was very fortunate when I was raised in sales, is that I was taught the art of how to communicate. In person, nowadays, obviously in email and conversations, but to communicate in a sincere and honest way. However, today, I feel like we've lost that. That technique has not been taught and passed along. How do you actually have a conversation? And so in our world, we created what the abbreviation called talker, your tone of voice, ask questions, listen to the answer, keep accurate notes, elaborate on what the customers talk about, empathize with them, and then repeat what you've heard to make sure you got it right. This spells talker. And we really believe that this is a key technique that people need to be learned today. And it's the art of pure communication. Now, not too long ago, we only did this verbally. Mm-hmm. Today's people got to be able to do this in email, which is, obviously writing it down, in short form email, which is text messages, emoticons, and so on, in person still, obviously, and on video, right? Which makes it sometimes more complicated. So they got to be able to diversify their communication techniques over way more channels than the previous generations ever had to think about.
Great. One thing that you were talking, I remember one of the videos that I watched of you, you saying about taking notes. A lot of people here in Brazil, they always trying to look for traits or characteristics for hiring sales people. And you said that if during the interview, the people that don't take notes, you immediately just discard the person. Is that right?
Yes. And the point is as follows. If people during the interview are for a job, which is the process of selling themselves to you as a company, if they are not taking notes on what is critical for them personally, their job, their future, their career, if they don't have the ability to take notes on something that is so important, then they're most likely are not going to do a good job for you when they have to take notes to represent your company, your products, and help them establish relationship with the customer. That is where it comes from. So we believe that when you interview a person, that you should hire people who take notes. And then what we indicate is when you go during the interview process, in the start of the interview process, simply tell them, here's the 5 things we're going to talk about. And then, like an hour or two later, ask them, what were the 5 things we needed to talk about? If they don't know and they haven't taken notes, how can it be so important and they forgot? And I say this because, and I say it with empathy, right? If we're only going to hire people who take notes, like these videos are public, right? You make this video publicly available.
Yeah.
So wouldn't you want to have that your salespeople actually have watched videos, and not just from me, obviously, but from other leaders too? And if they hear in all these videos, it's important that you take notes for your interview. Then they're going to take notes, and then they're going to take notes with customers, and then our customers are going to be happier. I think you would feel really, really bad when you are visiting a customer, when you're visiting a doctor, and the doctor would not take any notes. We just listen to you, right? Now, listening is important, but the note-taking needs to go hand in hand, right? It's not like one or the other. You have to do both.
Usually when you're interested in something, people selling something, you usually take notes. So it's important even to show the customer that you're interested in what they're saying.
That's right. And here's the reason why. If a customer, right, and during a diagnosis often you ask the customer, so if I get it right, you're still working with an Excel spreadsheet to do this. Yes. And how many people do you have? And let's say they say 25. Okay, so you have 25 people that are submitting expense reports via Excel spreadsheets to you every Friday, and they say yes. And then you say, so what's the challenge with that? The customer is going to then, it's like a bucket that you kick over, a bucket of water that you kick over. They're going to say, oh my gosh, my problems are this. And they're going to give you all these challenges. If you don't take notes, the only ones that you will remember are the ones that matter to you, right?
Yeah.
And the one that you have a solution for. And that may not be the best interest. And I think you need to know all the issues that the customer talks about. It is okay to prioritize them, but you need to say, so if I got it right, Excel spreadsheets, 25 people every week is causing you these 5 problems, of which this one is giving you a headache. Did I get that right? Yes. I find it hard to believe that people can do this without taking notes.
Yeah, and it's so critical information, right? Not only for this moment, but for other interactions we're gonna have during the relationship.
Absolutely, it is this critical information for you to pass along. Like they call it tribal knowledge on the customer, right? It's the knowledge that you have that passes on through your CRM. So yes, we believe that taking notes is one of the most critical traits that a good salesperson has.
Great insight for everybody. Returning to the framework, the 4th step was implement frameworks of best practice. How do we do that?
Well, one of the challenges that we find is that like salespeople come from a point of view of individual contributor. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, if you go back 10, 20, 30 years ago, salespeople actually never shared best practices with each other. They were very much like, no, that's my secret trick. Why would I share my tricks with you on how I make money? So they were very like hold that, what they in America call close to the chest. Today, however, that doesn't work anymore. Today's social transparent environment is way more focused on sharing. And so now what we see is, in order for me to work in this way faster moving world, I need to share best practices. So others will share best practices with me. In order to do that, we call that a framework. And a framework is different than a script. A script is where I make you say specific things in a specific way. A framework is saying, hey, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning of the call, let's agree and let's introduce each other, and then let's agree to the end time and to a goal of the meeting, right? In the middle of the call, we're going to talk about some problems, and towards the end, we're going to make some decisions, right? That is like a framework that we all listen to. But what we often see, for example, in this framework, is that salespeople forget that 5 minutes before the call needs to close, they forgot the time. And so we're rushing to a close. And so the customer now says, you know what, why don't you send me that email with that information? And then the person comes to me later on and says, like, Jacco, how can I revive a deal that has gone dark? It's, and I well, now it's too late, right? Like the framework should have helped you prevent that. And that framework says 5 minutes before the end of the call, you got to simply ask the customer, in interest of time, are you ready to, do you want to spend some more time with us? Do you have a few more minutes? Or should we start heading towards, the close of the meeting? And then they often say, oh, I have a few more minutes so we can talk a little more. Or no, you're right. Let's get to some next steps. But it's your responsibility. And that is what the framework tells you.
Great. And the last step is coach, not train. I was intrigued about that.
Yes. Well, we have, like if I see, like the modern generation that I with, the current generation, right? And I see them take notes, right? Let's say that I have note paper on 2 pages, left page and right page. When we are training them, then, like they're taking notes on the right page. Oh, this is how the company gets better. And then every now and then I say something like, oh, by the way, at the end of the training, you're going to be tested on this. And so on the left page, they're keeping notes on all the things that I'm talking about they're going to be tested on. And on the right page, it's all the lessons that I'm teaching them on how to help customers better. Okay? Which page do you think has more notes? The page with the notes on what they're going to be tested on, or the page with the notes on how I'm going to make the customer help the customer better?
The one that they will be tested.
Okay, now don't blame them, right? Don't blame them. You come from an environment where your performance is based on the left page, the page of testing. They've been doing that we've been training them for 16 years in school. That page is all that matters. And so they do exactly what they've been trained. What we need to do is we need to train them to the other page. To the left page is training. To the right page is coaching. Training them to do the right things is one way. Coaching them is sitting with them elbow to elbow, next to them on a call, and helping them and say like the specific things that need to happen. Speak slower. Sometimes we say we have a little paper that says shut up. And why we say that is because we want to make sure. I literally have these note paper that I point to, like, shut up. If you ask the customer a question, then you need to shut up, right? Stop talking, listen, take notes, right? And so, but they need to be taught. And that doesn't go necessarily all through training. That is what we call coaching, elbow to elbow, together working on it. Have a person who knows best explain to the next person how to do it and help them do that specific task when it happens, a live call.
Great. So that's something that I want to dive in a little bit about training / coaching. When we compare our salespeople to pro athletes, we realize that we are really, really amateurs. We don't train enough. We don't practice enough. And I have a partner who watched one of your workshops. I think it was during the RD Summit last year, and he always quote you saying that 4 + 1 is greater than 5. That 4 days of working and 1 day of training will create more results than 5 days of working. But every time that I share this story with someone, everybody freaks because think that 20% of the time is too much. So what do you mean by that? And how do you suggest we put this in practice?
Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that message. 4 + 1 is bigger than 5. Now, 4 + 1 is bigger than 5. Indeed, as you say, 4 days of work with 1 day of training will always exceed 5 days of work. So if you think of that, and if we ask simply people like, do you believe that's true? I have yet to meet a person that wants to argue with me on that. Everybody agrees 4 days of work plus 1 day of training will exceed 5 days of work.
If you look at the sales teams that I know, they don't think that because they are not doing this.
They're not doing it, but what are their results, right? And so what you'll see is that there is no other thought than everybody realizing that's the way to work. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to work from Monday to Thursday and train on Friday? No, that's not it. Although I'm not against it, I think it's a good place to start if you really wanted to. But I think there's the following: how productive are people? In your case, in every market and region and culture is different. But what is the slowest few hours of the week? Which hours during the week are the slowest?
Probably Friday, the end of the day. People already slowing down a little bit. I don't know, maybe at lunchtime, sometimes people are always really slow.
That's right. And so what we believe in is what we call daily, weekly, monthly. Why don't we spend 15 to 20 minutes every day of practicing and sharing best practices right before the day starts? Like any other athlete, like any doctor, why don't we just first as a group review what's the day ahead and what are we applying today? Quick practices. We call those rings. We set up people in groups of 3 to 4 and they have to practice calling or emailing. Okay, so that's
before the day starts?
Before the day starts. Now, if there's, for example, many companies have what they call a call block. May I ask have you heard of that?
Like blocking a period of time just to call?
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard.
And give me an idea on when the call block would start.
When the call block would start? Probably at 9 a.m.
Till how long?
Well, depends, but I don't know, until 10, 11, okay. 12.
So watch the following. Let's say 9 till 11, okay? Mm-hmm. 9 to 11, the entire team needs to start calling, right? And this happens. And we can do the same thing with emailing and discovery calls, all that's on, okay? So may I ask you, what is the busiest day? What is the busiest time of day for an executive when they arrive, or when a professional arrives? What is the busiest time of the entire day?
Probably when they get there.
Okay. And when does everybody's meeting start? What's the first meeting of the day that the most, all the time?
Probably the same time that we usually invite to call.
Okay. So we're putting a call block in during the busiest time that everybody is having meetings. And so I'm saying, first of all, call block should never start at the top of the hour. The top of the hour till 50 minutes is a very, very busy time, let alone at 9 o'clock where it's maximum busy. Okay. So why don't we spend that first 50 minutes of the day, like just to start practicing? So by the time they make the first call, it is not a cold call. They've already run through it a couple of times, right? And emailing, the same thing. Why don't we just step through or storytelling or objection handling? All these things can be practiced. What we have noticed is that when we put in 50 minutes of daily training, after 2 weeks, meaning 10 times it has been practiced for 50 minutes, the difference between people who don't train and train is so different, it is mesmerizing. It is just like, it's not like a 5% difference. It's radically different.
Yeah, I totally believe, yeah.
Right? So that is a daily training. Weekly training, we believe that Friday afternoon that you mentioned, why don't we sit back, analyze a call, and as a group, record a call, and we look at it and say, hey, what did you do right and wrong on this call? Mm-hmm. Compare it against the blueprint, the framework that we've tested, and say like, hey, why did you ask the customer this question? What made you go into that direction? And as a group, same way that the movie Top Gun, Kelly McGillis questions Tom Cruise, we need to just step over it. Flight school, we need to step over it. So we spend 1 or 2 hours every Friday. We spend 50 minutes every day. I think that will be a great place to start. And then what we do, every month, we add 2 hours of new skill training. What is a new skill that we can train? A new demo, a new product. If you add that, then I think that's a great place to start. Finally, and arguably the most importantly, is something that happens in real time. May I ask, what happens with a company if there's 10 salespeople and they win a deal? What do? The deal comes in. Client committed, paperwork comes in. What does everybody do?
Celebrate, ring a bell.
Ring the bell. Yay! We won another one. Yes. Ding. High fives, everybody, right? What do they do after that? What is the next thing that they do?
I don't know. Get back to work.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Okay. And this is embarrassing to me. And, I believe that after a person won the deal, get your iPhone out or your whatever phone you have, get your camera, start recording, interview the person who won the deal. What was the problem that the customer ran into? May I ask, what was the event? What was the timeline that we're on? What are the challenges? What's the reason they bought for us? Who are we competing with? Ask all these questions. Pull out your phone. 3, 4, 5 minutes of a short interview of the customer will, within like 30 days, give you a database of customer success stories for your sales team that you can train the next 20 salespeople on. This is happens while it's occurring. If you add all that up, I believe that people have learning opportunities of 1 day a week, and then they have 4 days of the rest of the week in order to help customers solve the problems with what they've learned. And I think that, like I said, if we start with daily 50 minutes, every week we do a call review, every month we do 2-3 hours of training, and with every customer win, we record a short video by interviewing the person who won. I think if we start there, then we're going to have a pretty good framework that will help you exceed the performance of your competitors.
Amazing, Jacco. I love your approach to this topic. And last question. I see many companies who already have a process defined, trying to create right now their sales playbooks. What should we have in a customer-centric playbook? What are the best practices to implement it effectively?
Yes. What is often overlooked and what is always the challenging scenario is if I ask you, what is in a standard playbook? What is the number of people are hired and what are they immediately taught on? When they're hired, they're given a deck, right? and then they get the deck, and which is the customer deck. And then what do we teach them on? What do I have to do with that deck? They have to learn something.
Yeah. What kind of things is usually, well, I see a lot of people talking about the product that they'll sell.
Okay, so they're being taught about the product.
Yeah.
And they're being taught how to pitch.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, if a customer asks me a question and I don't know what to answer, I'm going to fall back on my training. So what am I going to talk about when a customer asks a question?
My product.
My product. Right? And I'm going to pitch it.
Yeah.
It's the wrong thing. And so what we believe needs to be in any customer playbook is not what to pitch, but is what questions you need to ask. It's not about like, hey, here's the features that we have, but it's understanding what are the critical events that a customer has. What are the events that normally, for example, if you're hiring people, then January probably is a busier month. If you're in rapid growth, maybe, like you're ever looking for a lot of leads, but what is driving that? What is behind it? And so I'll explain to you that in very basic terms. Most people are looking for what we call a fit. And let me say, if you're selling car tires for a car, then every person with a car is what we call a prospect.
Yeah.
Now, how do I know that, to find the people who really are of interest to me? And so here in California, in Silicon Valley, I say it's like, well, look for people who have a ski rack on the roof. Well, why? Well, a ski rack on the roof, they're most likely going to go skiing. And so if the snow falls, you can say, hey, you're going to have a problem. Why? Well, you're going to go up on a mountain. Do you have snow tires? Oh, no. Well, now you have a customer who has a pain. Mm-hmm. This is a difference. So you need to learn to teach in your playbook, help people identify the pain, help them to ask the right questions, structure your questions, and then finally, help them understand the customer stories. What are other customers that found themselves in a similar position? What did they do when they ran into this problem? And so what you're looking for is the following. You're looking for when you talk to a customer and a customer says, I bought your solution because I thought it would help me increase my revenue. What I didn't know is that it really helped me with X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. That X, Y, and Z, that's your customer story. So when the next customer comes to you with the same problem and say, hey, I want revenue increase, then you say, well, I know that you're looking for revenue increase, but I spoke recently to John, and what John told me was, although he had the revenue increase, but he found that X, Y, and Z were way more important than he wasn't counting on. That's a customer story. So you need to know these things in your playbook. You need to know how to ask questions. You need to be able to tell your customer stories. You need to make sure that you understand what are the critical events that they are running into and what impact are they looking to achieve.
Great. Jacco, thank you very, very, very much for your time, for sharing.
Whoa. So seriously, you get to ask all the questions and I'm just here to answer? So can I ask a few questions?
Definitely.
Okay. What is the number one challenge that your listeners run into?
Well, lead generation, it's something that everybody struggles. I think, as I said, there's few companies that actually have a customer-centric approach, and I think that this makes selling so much harder. And it's something that we are always trying to let's connect a little bit.
Let's connect those two. Lead generation is a problem, right? Where do the best leads come from?
Well, probably referrals from other clients.
Oh my gosh. So what a concept. We're having a problem with leads and we're not having customer-centric selling, right? Yeah. I tell you, in today's world, the customer voice is spreading so much faster. And because there are so many bad experiences, anybody that hears from a great experience with a customer that some buyer had with another vendor, they immediately going to go like, oh, I want some of that too. It is spreading so fast. It's unbelievable, right? We've seen it with Slack among others, right? We've seen it with all these products. They spread. So maybe
Right
They're
now
not
in
disconnected.
Brazil, we have big WhatsApp groups with professionals that have the same problems. So when someone have a good experience, like 200 people right away becomes aware of that. So this is spreading really fast.
You see, so they are connected, and I believe that is the reason. Like I said, your customers will make you do. And if you have a lead problem, here's a few simple two tricks for your audience. First and foremost, focus on finding leads that have a pain, not a fit. A fit means, hey, like they're a bank with over 500 employees. That's a fit. A pain means, well, they're not only a bank with over 500 employees, but they're actually recruiting 20 new people every month, right? So they probably need some help with recruiting, for example. That's a pain. One is a fit, the other one is a pain. That's one. The second part is, when you are discounting, immediately ask during that process, do you know anyone else that can benefit from this? And if they do, make that part of the deal. Say like, okay, I'm more than welcome to help you, but you need to help me. Can you introduce me to two people who can benefit, not who can buy from me? I'm not saying, can you refer me? I'm saying, do you know of two people who can benefit? That will really, really help you straight from the bat. Okay, that was problem number one. And question number one. Question number two. What did you learn today that took you by storm and that you go like, oh my gosh, that was a real key takeaway for me?
Well, I fell.
Did you take notes?
Well, I'm recording this, so I have an excuse because I'm having this record. Well, let me see what are the main takeaway. We'll talk a little bit about customer-centric.
Okay, I'm going to give you one, and then I'm going to let you know how important this is because it was something, okay? Folks, the most important thing that you can see, you are a human being. Learn how to communicate with each other. The world has a lot of problems right now, and I wish one day that I was a doctor and could make people feel better. And I wish that I was a better engineer and could make better products and progress. But believe me, this world has arguably plenty of doctors and lots of engineers. It's not the biggest problem. The biggest problem that we're having in the world is that we're not communicating with each other. We're not listening to each other. We're not helping each other. And I think that us, marketing and sales professionals that are listening to this call, we are truly the ones that can make that difference. We are professional listeners. And if all of us just a little bit make the communication a little bit better and start spamming emails a little bit more, a little bit less, I would say, start spamming less email, having better conversations. If we can do that, and we all do that a little bit, then I believe that all of us together can change the world and make all these problems of presidents trying to hit each other and trying to fire missiles at each other, we can make those go away.
Oh, amazing final message, Jacco. Thank you very much again. And well, where people can find more about you, you produce a lot of content and about Winning by Design. You guys now have an operation here in Brazil.
That is right, and we do. And I think like they can. We have an operation in Brazil, run by Renata Centurion, out of Sao Paulo. We already, as some of you may have seen me speak at Resultados Digitais Summit late last year. And till date, I think we already have like 12 or 14 customers. So it's going really well. We've started to translate much of our material into Portuguese. All the key materials have been translated to Portuguese as well. So we can find out more about winningbydesign.com or contact Renata at winningbydesign.com. Well, are you ready, Daniel? Are you ready for this?
I am.
You know what I'm going to do, right?
I don't know, but I'm scared.
You better be. I want to see some action, okay? Are we going to say goodbye to your viewers at the same time, right?
Let's do it.
Okay, there we go.
That was what I just wasn't scared, Jacco.
Hot stop! Are you ready for the main frame? Here it comes.
Let's do it.
Woo!
Wow, Jacco, it's amazing always interacting with you. For those who don't know, before the call, Jacco made us dance a little bit to get the energy up. uh, but Jacco, thank you very much again, and hope to see you here in Brazil soon.
Okay, likewise. I'll say goodbye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.